Hi, welcome back. My name is Brint and we are welcoming you to the 2009 Your Best Year Ever series. In the first session, as you recall, we talked about the gap and identifying gaps and how do you close those gaps. The second session, we gave you some ideas on how do you increase your productivity by increasing your focus and leveraging your mental activity. The third session, we talked about how do you specifically focus your energies on the 5 business drivers. And how do you measure your impact to the businesses that you hope to be employed by or are currently employed by? So in this session today, what we'd like to talk to you about is about performance. And how do you really select people, if you're an employer, that are going to perform at top levels consistently and eliminate turnover that businesses suffer from? And we're looking at it from an employee's perspective, we're going to look at how do you maximize your performance by finding the right opportunities for yourself. So today we're going to really focus all of our energy on looking at this concept of performance. Okay? So when you look at performance, there's 3 elements that go into the equation, what I call the performance equation. And the first of these 3 elements is what we call talent. Okay? Now talent is pretty intuitive, but there's a couple different ways to look at talent. There's a couple different dimensions of talent that you need to be aware of. First off, we all have some inherent talents, okay? And some of us are very aware of those inherent talents, and others of us are not. Clearly, the more aware we are of our inherent talents, then it gives us leverage. Because inherent talents are great, but unless you develop those talents, then they ultimately don't become strengths, and they don't help you become more marketable. So, the other piece of this talent equation is you can be trained or you can learn habits, okay? You can learn how to develop those talents in order to market yourself better, all right? So, there's the 2 elements of talents. The second element of the equation is what I call effort, okay? And effort is really broken down into 2 different segments as well. One is attitude. What is your attitude towards the situation you find yourself in? And that impacts the effort that you put into your performance. The other element of this would be the habits. What kind of work habits, time management habits, what kind of prioritization habits, thinking habits, analysis habits, all those different kinds of thinking habits and behavioral habits go into your effort that's manifest. Now, if you have talent times effort, you still can get performance, but only if you maximize that by the third element, which is the opportunity that you find yourself in or that you create for yourself. So we want to look at opportunity here because we all have seen situations where you have people with great talent who put forth a lot of effort but never given the opportunity, then it's very difficult to perform. But you've also seen people, and we also know people, who have had great opportunities, but either didn't put forth the effort, and so therefore they didn't perform, or they didn't have the inherent talent which minimized or didn't maximize the performance that they were able to produce. Does this make sense? So I want you to think about these 3 elements, talent, effort, and opportunity, as you think about how do you maximize your creativity and your productivity in your current situation. It's my belief that everybody can be productive and creative given the right situation. Some people are much more creative and productive if you're in a very structured environment, if they have lists of things to do. Give some people a list and they will be very creative in how to get that list done accurately, thoroughly, and consistently dependable. Okay? But if you give that same list to another person that is more on a creative side, right, then it's going to repel them, right? It's going to demoralize them. Give them a blank canvas, and they're going to paint a mosaic or a beautiful painting with nothing there. So the trick with this is finding the opportunity for the individual where they can maximize their performance, and it goes back to the 3 elements that we talked about. What are the inherent talents that the individuals have? What is the effort, history of effort that they have put forth, and what kind of opportunity are we going to provide for them? So let's take a look at this in summary really quickly so that you understand how to do this. Let's take a look at it if you're an employer, for instance. As an employer, what are you interested in when you're selecting employees? You want people who are going to come in and are going to perform. And perform in context of the 5 business drivers that we talked about in the previous session. So you're doing the best to provide an opportunity, but you can provide an opportunity, but you want to strategically select people who are going to match the opportunity that you're giving them. That's the way you eliminate turnover. Now we have a process called zero turnover hiring that helps companies, helps employers select talent very strategically, very deliberately to match the talent and the history of effort to very specific opportunities. It eliminates much of the turnover. It's called zero turnover hiring. So we'll tell you a little bit about that later. So you want to look at, if you're an employer, how do you get the right talent with the history of the right effort to maximize the opportunity to get the performance you need. But let's switch over and look at it if you're an employee now. Because if you're an employee, what are you after? You want to find yourself in the right opportunity. You're looking for the right opportunity so that you can maximize your productivity and maximize your creativity. Make sense? So how do you do that? Well, that's where the responsibility comes back to you as an individual, or me as an individual, to really get clear on what are my talents, what have I had inherently, and what talents have I learned, and what effort can I put into developing that and taking that talent and creating a skill out of it, a marketable skill out of that talent. Now, the other piece of that is how do I demonstrate my work history and the history of to demonstrate that I have productivity habits that are going to help me to perform if an employer gives me this opportunity. That ties back to the 5 business drivers that we talked about in the previous session, and we have a class that helps you to understand those 5 business drivers, and it enables you to make line of sight, so to speak, on what you do and how do you impact these business drivers in your career. So I hope this gives you some ideas that you can build on to enable you to perform, and whether you're an employer looking for selecting the right talent, gives you an opportunity to evaluate that in a different way. In addition to, if you're an employee looking to find an opportunity right now, it's a great chance for you to look at what are your gifts, what are your talents, how do I want to manifest my effort and my habits to prove that I'm worthy and able to perform in the opportunities given to me. We appreciate your time today. If you would, go out to www.2009yourbestyearever.com, and I'll send you an overview presentation of this so that it gives you some ideas and touches on the principles. But we appreciate your time, and we're committed to making 2009 your best year ever. Thank you. Make it a great day.